Dr. Leary, LSD has made you either a prophet or a pariah. What fashion would you use, or how would you summarize your own experiences with the drug? What has it done to you, to your mind?
First of all, we have to ask the question, what is LSD? LSD is a chemical, but it's not a drug. Most Americans are familiar with two drugs which change consciousness. Drugs which put us into a stupor. Drugs which wake us up. Almost every American uses one of these two. We use opiates or tranquilizers or alcohol to put us into a nice, cozy stupor. Or we use drugs like pep pills or even coffee to wake us up. But there are many other levels of consciousness, many other levels of awareness which can be triggered off by chemicals. Now, LSD is not a drug like alcohol or barbiturate. LSD is a chemical which contains several hundred Encyclopedia Britannicas. So when you talk to someone who's taken LSD, or if you ever seen anyone who's taken LSD, his consciousness is being spun through many, many different levels of language, which are not the language of English or French or Latin, but chemical languages of cell and nervous system, sense organ, which are many millions of years old. What's the reaction to taking LSD? If the person is unprepared and he swallows this local library of chemical messages, he's confused. He can be entranced and delighted, or he can be very frightened. Most of the people who develop what we call an LSD panic are people who take LSD not knowing what's going to happen. They think it's like a martini, or they think it's like a pep pill. It's not at all. It's a highly complicated engaging of nerve tissue and cell tissue inside, which throws you into energy languages for which many people are not prepared, thus the confusion and the fear.
Who would you recommend take it?
Well, again, when we're talking about LSD, we're talking about an instrument, like the microscope, a form of energy. I think that any responsible adult who has demonstrated through training that he knows enough to use this form of energy should be allowed to do it. I am not in favor of indiscriminate use of LSD or of any form of energy. I think the motor car in the hands of an alcoholic or of a nut is a very dangerous instrument. Anything that man's technology has created can be dangerous if an unprepared person gets it. I'm in favor of strict licensing by government agencies, the way the automobile and the airplane is licensed, so that psychologically and physically prepared people who know what they're doing and who have serious purposes can use these wonderful and incredible keys to the wisdom and energy which is inside our body.
What kind of wisdom can such a person find for himself under the influence of a chemical?
Well, I have to use the example of the microscope. 300 years ago, if I were to say, do you know that there's a level of energy around us which is invisible, but which is powerful and beautiful and has all sorts of meanings, you'd think I was a nut or a pariah, and I'd be lucky to stay out of jail as I am today. The same thing is true of LSD. LSD is like a microscope, even an electron microscope, which opens up awareness of energies which are there. There's nothing miraculous or mysterious about LSD. It opens up energies which are there, and I think will be used in the future as a form of education, as a form of self-growth. In any situation where we now use our symbolic mind, the microscope of LSD will help us see more, see faster, and see deeper.
What therapeutic value, if any, could LSD have?
You mean in psychiatry?
In psychiatry, in clinical psychology.
Well, naturally, the psychologists and psychiatrists want to use LSD in treating mental illness. I think that LSD will be the #1 cure for mental illness when the psychologists know how to use it, because it's a microscope, but unless you know how to use the microscope and know what to put under it and how to describe and communicate what you found, the microscope leads to confusion.